So as you guys probably already know, 2 days ago, the official campaign trailer came out for Call of Duty Modern Warfare, talking about the story of the game and showing us what the campaign's going to be all about. It looked absolutely incredible, but since then there's actually been 2 more trailers put out, one by PlayStation and one by The Hollywood Reporter, both of these interviewing different people from the studio, talking about the campaign and various things within the game. And I've dug through all of these and came up with 10 campaign secrets you should probably know about the game. These things range from things to do with the characters in the campaign, all the way to a mistake I found with the story. And no one's talked about this, so I thought it would be a pretty interesting video. So as always, if you enjoy this kind of thing, if you enjoy me talking about the campaign, simply hit that like button, as it shows me that you want to see more videos like this one. Now, I'm not going to show you both of the entire videos. I'm going to link them both down in the description if you want to check the whole things out. I'm just going to break off a couple of pieces and talk about those individual things, because one trailer is like 5 minutes and the other is 6 minutes alone. So I'm just going to break them apart and talk about individual items, starting off with a little one-liner from Captain Price.
There aren't sharp lines. Everything is life and death, and there are consequences.
We get dirty, and the world stays clean. That's the mission.
We get dirty and the world stays clean. This has kind of been a motto for all of the Modern Warfare games. They get down and dirty, do the things that other people don't want to, but it also could be a euphemism talking about dirty bombs. We get dirty and the world stays clean. It's kind of a common subject throughout all of these campaign trailers, is talking about nerve gas bombs, talking about dirty bombs, things that these soldiers actually have to deal with and are literally life or death situations. The other thing that they also talk about throughout these trailers is operating within the gray.
There's a gray area, and today's soldiers work in that space.
They go out there and they do their best because they fight for what they believe in.
Now, operating within the gray is something that's common to the Modern Warfare universe, talking about whether what you are doing in that moment, you don't know whether it's right or wrong or not. People are trained this way in the actual military, and even first responders are trained this way as well. Now, moving on, the next thing that they talk about is the actual setup for the story in the game. What is actually going on to create this war that is going on within Modern Warfare? And here's what they say.
The setup of this game is nerve gas gets stolen and may be in the hands of terrorists. And players need to track it down and figure out who has it before it gets used against us or our allies.
So throughout that cutscene, we get to see many of the main characters in this game. The first one, of course, is our main characters, the good guys. We're going to talk about these guys a little bit more in a bit. The second one is the main bad guy, and we've talked about this guy a little bit. As you can see here, when we zoom in, he is codenamed the Wolf. And we talked about that in the previous trailer video. I kind of knew that from going to the reveal in May, but I didn't know his actual name. And in fact, if we zoom in a little bit more on this picture and look at the bottom, he is labeled as a terrorist leader, and his name is actually down there as Omar Suleiman, it appears. And as you can see, his code name right beside that, the Wolf. So we finally have an answer to who this guy actually is. And in this cutscene, they actually show a third person, the person I'm zooming in on here. I don't know who this is. We don't know. We know that it is possible that Imran Zakhaev is in the campaign. We talked about that in a previous video, but this looks like a much younger bad guy. And as of right now, I don't know who this is. So if you have any ideas, throw them down in the comments. The only reason why I say Imran Zakhaev is he looks a little Russian. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is actually in that exact same scene that they just gave us. At the very beginning, they say,
The setup of this game is nerve gas gets stolen.
Whoa, let's hold up right there. So they say that nerve gas gets stolen, and then they show this image. So for those of you who don't know, I went to school before doing YouTube to be a paramedic, and before that I went to school to be a firefighter. So I know a lot about the human body, and I also know a lot about hazmat and these materials. And chlorine gas, as you can see in this image as we zoom in on it, the nerve agent that they talk about. Chlorine gas is not a nerve agent. Chlorine gas is a chemical that if you breathe it in, basically your lungs turn it into hydrochloric acid, and then you drown upon yourself. You go into respiratory arrest and die because you can't breathe. It's not a nerve agent. Nerve agent would be something like sarin or saurine. I can't remember how to pronounce it, but basically it causes your nerves to stop firing, your muscles shut down, and in that case with sarin gas, it basically causes your lungs to stop breathing, not because they're full of liquid. Very different gases. Chlorine gas, like they're showing here, is not a nerve agent like they're saying. And ladies and gentlemen, that is your daily science lesson with Inkslasher. I probably just taught you more than you learned in school all day. Now, aside from that, The next thing that they go into is talking about the characters in the game, the main characters, the ones we know and are going to be playing as, and I thought we would just dive into that to get a little bit more background on the main characters. So here's the beginning of it.
You're gonna play as 3 different characters.
We've got Sergeant Kyle Garrick. He is a SAS soldier working counterterrorism in London.
We don't stand a chance in hell with these rules of engagement, Captain. They can tell us where, they can tell us when, don't tell us how.
So I actually have a little bit more information about Kyle Garrick. When we went to the reveal in May, they actually told us this, that Kyle Garrick actually used to be a Metropolitan Police officer before he got brought into Bravo 6, aka Captain Price's squad within the SAS.
You've got Alex.
He's a CIA operator.
We gotta move now.
He doesn't get to choose where he goes and what he fights for. He's a career soldier.
I really don't have anything else to add to that one. It's interesting that he's in here, as most of the soldiers we are looking at are from either the Middle East or the SAS, which is British. Meanwhile, Alex is CIA, which means he's from America. Lends to the question whether or not Task Force 141, which is a joint operation between the British and the Americans, I'm interested to see whether it's going to be in this game or not.
And Farah, the commander of a liberation force.
She really breaks the mold. She's grown up in a land under occupation, and she's become the leader of the resistance.
Farah says, I am only willing to do what is honorable. I would rather lose than win by doing something dishonorable.
So Farah is one of the leaders of the rebels. You also get to see her brother Kadir as well throughout the campaign. But you actually start out with her as a child. One of the mission takes place when she's a kid, and you kind of get to see why she chose the rebel side of things. Now, on top of this, she is the leader of the rebels in a made-up country called Urzikstan. They didn't use a real Middle Eastern country, and I'm sure you can kind of see why they did that. But that's kind of the background of Farah. And then, of course, we have the Big Daddy.
You'll be reintroduced to Captain Price, but we've given him more humanity. You want to fight side by side with him because you know that you're fighting with the best.
And of course you want to fight with Captain Price. That one's just kind of obvious. Now, the next statement I found very interesting.
We've worked very hard to give players freedom to choose how these encounters are going down.
So of course that leaves me with the question, is there going to be multiple endings to this game? Kind of like a good ending, a bad ending, based on these decisions that you've made throughout the game. I'm actually really curious to see if they actually did that. We've seen that before in other Call of Duty games like Black Ops 2, and I'm curious to see whether that continues within this game as well. We don't know as of right now, just based off of what he said there, I find that pretty interesting. Now that's pretty much the wrap up of the campaign. However, with the other trailer that we got from The Hollywood Reporter, they actually gave us some more images and views of the operators, which we talked about before, have their own story that is somewhat intertwined with the story of the campaign as well. So I thought I would show you that too. So as far as this interview goes, there's really not too much that's brand new to the game, but we do get to see some stuff for the first time. So first things first, we get to see a new weapon camo, as you're seeing on screen here. Now everything after here is pretty much has to do with the operators in multiplayer. So the next thing we get to see here is a first look at Bale, who is the head of the Spetsnaz division for the operator. After this, we get to see a bunch of operators who are not blacked out for the allegiance at the very bottom of the screen there. Before, in the beta, they were all kind of blacked out, so we couldn't see all of them, but here you actually get to see their faces. Now, similar, we get to see this with the Coalition, with the SAS, Warcom, and Demon Dogs getting to see some faces for the first time. But then at the very end, there is a 4th division that whoever made this video, The Hollywood Reporter, has blurred out. What this means is that there's going to be probably a 4th division with both the Coalition and the Allegiance that we haven't seen yet and is going to somehow tie into the game. In other words, we are going to get to see more operators probably at the launch of the game. Another character that we get to see for the first time doing an emote here is Yegor. And then with Grinch, we actually get to see how his ghillie suit was made, how it's brought back from Call of Duty 4, but we also get to see the skin selection screen, as we can see here. Now, we get to see this on actually a couple of characters, but like I said before, this is our first look at the character Grinch, who appears to always be wearing ghillie suits. But with the skin selection, we can see that there's a lot of different skins available for these different characters. And then finally, the last thing we get to see is a first look at the new character Domino. know, who wasn't in the beta. So we got to see a bunch of new operators that are going to be coming to the game. But ladies and gentlemen, that was everything I was able to find in these 2 trailers. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know down in the comments, or even if you have any questions, you can do that too. Also guys, if you enjoyed the video, it's always appreciated if you hit that like button. And finally, if you want to stay up to date on everything Modern Warfare or Call of Duty, the best way to do so is make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you turn notifications on. But guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time guys, peace out.
We are reaching for the stars, but we're